morning, everyone. Welcome you to the Carnival. I'm sorry. The Carnival Port Authority Board of Commissioners meeting in this new year, which we have a lot to look forward to. At this time, I'm going to ask Commissioner Markey if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to recognize our ambassadors that are here. Mike Guteau. Hate to butcher your name too much, Mike, but Dennis Hepburn, Bob Sachs, Ambassador Emeritus, a former Commissioner, former Director, Mac McLeod. Thank you very much. Appreciate y'all's services. This time I call for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the December 8th, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Personal appearances and presentations. Update on current and future projects. Neil Hudson of Lehigh Hanson. You got the floor. Appreciate you being here with us this morning.
Good morning, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate the opportunity to be here. I met with Captain Murray a couple of 3 weeks ago, and it was obvious that it's important for Lehigh Hanson to be sure that the people around us in the community are aware of who we are. So today really is to introduce myself. I'm the Director for Cement Operations for Lehigh Hanson in North America in Florida. I came to Florida in 2003 to build the grinding plant across the water. I then left in 2008, did a round-robin tour of Alabama, New York and Texas, and came home in June of this year to continue on. So what I'd like to do this morning, if we can, is just talk about the company history, how it became who it is, what is slag, what are its uses, what are the benefits of using the material, the markets and sectors that we're in. Talk a little bit about the original plant that we see today, and then of course we'll talk about the strategic investment that is coming our way here in 2022 that'll take us into 23 and beyond. So we'll have question time at the end, but typically we became Lehigh Hanson in 1977. Heidelberg Cement bought Lehigh Cement in North America, which gave ourselves a footprint in North America in 1993. But the company then moved further north into Canada and bought the Canadian operations to become Lehigh North America as it was then. 2002, Civil and Marine was the company I worked for at the time. We entered into a 40-year agreement with the port to build a grinding plant, a state-of-the-art grinding plant in Port Canaveral. It was commissioned, first full year of operation was 2005. And then in 2006, Hanson in the United Kingdom purchased Civil and Marine, which was an original UK company. And consequently, we were handed over to the Hanson board in North America, and we became Hanson Slag Cement Company at that time. In 2007, Heidelberg Cement then bought Hanson worldwide and became a very large magnate in terms of worldwide construction materials and building materials and production units. Moving forward into 2016, the last major acquisition was when Heidelberg Cement bought Italcementi worldwide. The North American leg of that business is Esrock, and was integrated into the company that we see today. And then in 2018, the business was retitled as Lehigh Hansen Inc. And that's the company that we are today. That's the parent company of the grinding plant across on the north side. So what is slag? Slag is, it's a green product. It's a recycled product from the iron making industry. So typically iron today is made in a blast furnace. Multiple components are tipped in the top. 2700 degrees Fahrenheit later gives you two products, slag and iron. The iron is then transported in preheated ladles to the steel making industry. And then the slag is one of two things. It's either air cooled in pits, which is environmentally insensitive, or it's granulated, which makes it a much greener, very inert product insofar as there's no leachates come out of that material. Particulates are very much reduced, and all the chemical components and byproducts of iron making are encapsulated and sealed until we grind it into a powder that then is used in the construction industry. So it's been around a long time. The 1700s, I think, was the first early port where somebody used Portland cement and slag cement and made a mortar out of it. One of the earliest recognized uses of slag was in the Paris metro tunnels, which of course are still in service today. And so that was in the late 1800s, and then into 1896 it really became more prevalent in this country, and as the Industrial Revolution took place, as we started making more iron and steel over here, then consequently the ability to use this material then started to grow. Today 30–50% of slag can be utilized in concrete. It's not insurmountable to go to 70% ordinarily. You can use higher percentages, but there needs to be some particular treatment and handling of those materials for a lot of technical reasons that I won't bore you with today. In our area, of course, it's we manufacture the material to an ASTM standard, which ensures its quality and low variability in product quality, which is very important to our customers. In mass pours, in any pours, it's a low heat of hydration. That's one of the benefits of it, which consequently resists concrete cracking due to thermal expansion. When to make concrete, you put cement and sand and aggregates into a mix, and you put a bit of water in there, and it gives a chemical reaction that's an exothermic. It gives off heat, and if you can control the heat, then you can control the rate of set, and you can control the product that you finish up with, and you can finish it to a manner that's suitable to yourselves. It is lighter in colour. For those of you that have been around a while, 2004, I think the silos across the way were constructed and slip formed, and they're still the same colour today, not a little bit lighter. So nothing really changes. It just gets better with age, but I'm biased. That's how I see our product. And if you do come over to the plant, and I would invite any one of you all to come and take a tour at your convenience. I understand Captain Murray's been there a while since, but I would encourage any of you to give me a call, and by all means come over and take a look at it. Everything you see above ground is 50% slag. The silos, all of the plinths that the equipment's set on, the foundations, the paving, the road approaches to and from the ramps, they're all 50% slag. Everything, there are things you can't see, for example, subterranean, some of the pile caps for the silos, some of the pile caps for the main equipment foundations are in 70% slag. So we're very much confident in our own product. The major benefit for this region, of course, is the resistance to chloride attacks. In any precast concrete, in any mass pour concrete, structural concrete, there's always rebar. So what slag will do as an inclusion in the mix is it seals up the voids where moisture can ingress and cause corrosion to the rebar. That's what you call concrete cancer. And you'll see around the state there are plenty of examples of concrete that has been receiving chloride attacks, and you can see that the concrete is starting to spoil off, exposing the rebar. Structurally, of course, that's not good. Aesthetically, it's not good either. But a couple of things that's good about slag in addition in its form is that it's light, so consequently it reflects heat, and it doesn't require as many lumens to illuminate car parks, large spaces, and so on and so forth. So there's a multitude of reasons to use it. Where is it used? Well, predominantly over 90%, probably about 92% of what we produce on an annual basis is consumed in the state. Everything leaves the terminal by powder, which of course, by truck, which of course in today's scenario is pretty demanding given the logistics puzzle that we all face on a daily basis, both in and out of the port and in other states and up and down the country as well. So we understand that, and we're trying to improve our service to our customers. Most of our powder leaves in trucks, goes to Miami or down up into to Jacksonville, and we do have rail points over at City Point where we'll rail it up into a little bit into Tennessee, but mainly into Georgia, South Carolina. Soil stabilization is a common use for this material. We built our name 15 years ago, I think, down in the Keys. We did a lot of soil stabilization work down there with Mashmeyer and Kiewit. For example, the Okeechobee cut-off wall was rebuilt using our material just to stop leachate and migration of moisture, precast concrete. The Miami Tunnel had a large construction component based on with slag cement. Ready-mix concrete up and down, all aspects of home use, for example, it can be used. It does take a little longer to go off, and it does take a little finishing difference to regular concrete, but nonetheless it can still be used. And then one of the other big opportunities is mass pour warehouse flooring, for example, large dwellings, construction projects where you need to control the heat of hydration that we talked about earlier. So it's got a lot of good properties for it. In terms of here, again, the plant we started building in 2003, was completed in 2004, and commissioned fully operational 2005 was its first full year. At the time, and to a large degree it still is, it was state of the art. Large ball mill, very, very high energy consumer, so we have to be as efficient as we can possibly be with it to mitigate that cost, just to be responsible to the shareholders. Very much a skeleton crew, 18 employees. There are only 4 salaried employees over there. The remainder are hourly employees that have come to join us, and we've trained them, and some we've retained and some we've changed, but we're in a much better place, I think, now than we've been. Capacity-wise is 83 tons an hour metric, which is about 92 short, which is quite substantial just for a single chamber ball mill in our industry, particularly grinding slag. Not to bore you too much details, but it's ground finer than conventional cement. So if you grind something finer, you have to use more energy. So consequently, one of my responsibilities is to be as energy efficient as we can possibly be. So we're optimizing the system all the time. We don't have a lot of storage capacity, which is why we need City Point, and we obviously utilize some of the available capacity in Cape South. We have 10,000 metric tons on site over there in 2 silos, 4 scales. So over a period of time, of a year, when we're making about 550,000 tons and we've got to ship it all out of there, it kind of gets a little bit congested. So we appreciate the efforts of the port to try and streamline some of those touch points over there. I know lumber's a very good product for the port. We want to be good neighbours, and we want to support each of our neighbours around us, and we'll do what we can to help, as well as the port, just to try and ease the logistics burden as much as we possibly can. So, when we build a roll press, we're going to go from probably a 28% increase in throughput. There's some benefit to us, of course, insofar as that we're producing more material for only a little bit more inclusion in power. But the long shot is that we'll be able to make more material to share around the state of Florida and beyond. So the picture that you see in front of you there is that's something that I don't know that any of you have seen. It's inside of the ball mill. The mill itself is 5 meters in diameter, and you can see there are 7 people. I was the one that took that picture, and this is a long time ago. There are 6 people with plenty of room inside that vessel. That's a continuously rotating piece of equipment with about 300 metric tons of chrome alloy balls in there that do the grinding for us. So what's next for us? It's evident, we all know that the state of Florida is under satisfied in terms of cementitious products, and we know that there's a multitude of import facilities, notwithstanding a couple in the port here. So in our interest to support that growth, we're looking at increasing our capacity, and we've got a project ongoing now that we started with a couple of test piles, and eventually what we'll have by Q4 of this year is we'll have a fully operational roll press, which will do an amount of work prior to going into the ball mill itself. So that's where we gain a little bit of energy efficiency. We spend a little bit up front, a bit more energy to make a lot more product and dissipate the main consumer, which is the ball mill motor at 8,000 horsepower. So it's in our interests, you know, to optimize. We expect some of the equipment to start arriving sort of late March, maybe into April. We'll need to work with Bill, obviously, just to make sure that we don't have any issues with some of the importing materials that the port will have for the cargo Pier 3 and 4 upgrades. You know, we're very cognizant of it. We're planning a tie into the existing plant in October of this year. So arguably by November, December, we should be in hot commissioning to iron out the wrinkles and stabilize the ship, as they say. So 23 is really our first full year, and again, I'd encourage you to come over, particularly as we build this, because the depiction here, the array of jazzy colours is the existing plant, and the little boring grey bit just in the front left of the picture is what we're putting in place. And it's a challenge. It's a real challenge to build this. It's as high as the current building, but it's in between. It's in between the loading hoppers, the silos, and the plant itself. And we've had to engineer it such that we can still access all the large major component pieces in the original building. So it's a task. And again, not to be boring, but I would encourage you to come across at some point and take a look at what we do. We'd be happy to have you, and just show you what we do. It's not very often that I talk to somebody in the community and they know who we are or what we do, and my goal is to change that, because, you know, while we are under the radar for all the right reasons, our mantra to our employees is do the right thing even when no one's looking. You know, we try and be a good neighbour, and we try as best we can to comply with everything that is required in our lease agreements, but also environmentally. Predominantly, everything comes secondary to safety for us, and again, doing the right thing when no one's looking is doing it safely. So that's really about all I have to say for this morning. I'd invite any questions if there's anything that I haven't clarified.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
How many people are you employing in the community?
We have 18 people, total of 18 on site. I think only one of them comes from Orlando.
Okay.
The majority of them are within 3/4 of an hour away. So I would argue that they're pretty much all Brevard County residents, me included.
Excellent. And then, as I learned about slag over the years,
Yeah.
I was asked the other day, and I don't know the answer to this, why does it not run off? Like, how does it, someone asked me, you know, you've got all these piles of salt and slag, why does it not?
Oh, you're talking about the raw material?
Yes, sir.
The raw material is, it's a very glassy, very, very coarse sand-like product, and it's very irregular in shape. So consequently, what you get is an interlocking characteristic. So and you can see the angle of repose is fairly steep. What happens is it comes out of the vessels. It's imported from Japan. It comes out of the vessels moist, anywhere between 6 and 9% moisture. And then, of course, it sits in the baking Florida sun. What it does do then is it forms a crust, which is beneficial. It's a very thin crust, like a thin crust pizza, really. But it's very beneficial insofar as it resists windborne particles being taken away from it. So once it's been sat for probably about 3 or 4 weeks, there's a fairly good crust on there. Of course, the more it rains, everybody thinks, well, it's just going to wet the product through. It doesn't. It actually physically sheds. And the amount of moisture that's left in the slag when it forms the crust is what stays there until we process it. So we've had vessels 2 or 3 months old that are the same moisture content as when we sampled it when it came out of the vessel when we unloaded it from Japan.
Very educational. Thank you.
And you're saying it's coming from Japan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a long-term contract with one producer over there, and we have a secondary contract with another producer over there. We've been with them for quite a long time, and Nippon Steel is the company, and we found them to be an excellent partner.
I had a couple of questions here. This is maybe I just missed this brief, but this is the first time that I've heard that this magnitude of construction is about to start and be completed here. Okay, so my question would be your interaction with this process, obviously the permitting and all that, but the whole, and I have no doubt it's going to be done right. It's going to be, but
Absolutely.
But give us a couple words about the interaction and our oversight of this significant project here.
Sure, be glad to. And so the permitting started some time ago. We have an engineering site plan permit review process that we established a few years back. And it's kind of a clearinghouse where our tenants can come to us, large and small, projects that are large and small of various natures, and start that permitting process. So they'll fill out an application. We'll go through a checklist of the various departments that need to review their plans, and they will bring their consultant on board to help provide those design plans to us. And I believe RSNH is the
RSNH,
consultant
yeah.
that you're using.
Correct.
So we will receive those plans through our online permitting portal. We will not shop those plans, but we'll distribute them through various departments. Legal, if there's a lease issue or something that needs to be looked at. Obviously, cargo operations. We'll look at it from a traffic standpoint. IT will take a close look at it as far as their facilities and if there's any interaction needed with our network. Public safety and security is included, and I may be leaving out a department, but we really try to use that as a clearinghouse document. What that does is when they earn that site plan, that engineering site plan approval for that permit, then they can move forward with construction. Now, they still have to get a building permit as well, and our building official will delve into the code requirements for the technical details of their plans and specs, and then follow up with code enforcement and code level inspections of the facility once it starts construction. So it's a very interactive, very, very collaborative, intra-departmental collaborative process here at the port. And ultimately, our goal is to support their project, their expansion. We know it means a lot to the port and our overall business portfolio, and find it to be a very comprehensive process.
Okay, and it's the answer I expected. The second, my other issue would be, what's the long pole in this tent here? I'm asking that because we just went through with Terminal 3. In the last minute, we had a significant change in the price of the project. I'm sure you've got the same challenges with the supply chain of all the steel and everything else you need in here. How are you looking ahead as you look ahead to get this whole thing going?
We have a project team. Lehigh Hansen has a centralized technical excellence center called CCC. It used to be called Heidelberg Technology Center. It's now CCC. They are managing that aspect of this project for us. Yes, there's been a lot of gnashing of teeth insofar as pricing unclarity, if that's a fair representation, and we've experienced that. We believe we're on the backside of it because most of the major items had been committed to be purchased several months ago. The final placing of the major items has now taken place, and as such that the prices are now fixed. I think the unknown for us at the moment are any tax changes, import tax variations, and freight charges. Those are the key components, I think, now for us looking forward. I think it's a relatively quick build. 10 months, I think, from today, we should start to see those wheels turning, producing an amount of material. So what's going to happen in 10 months, of course, none of us know, but we're all living through the effects of what was COVID. And obviously the second wave of that has put the economy back a little bit, I think. But construction doesn't seem to be slowing down, and I think there's always a route for materials to be delivered, and as such, I don't foresee any delays, and I don't foresee any major increases in costs going forward to the duration of the contract.
Thank you.
What contractor are you using?
We're using IAC. They're a company that they're based in Oklahoma. They've got several other large offices. They are the EPC contractor, so they're the engineer.
Their specialty, I assume?
The engineering, procuring, and the construction is their specialty. They've taken guidance from FLS, which was the parent company equipment that we purchased in 2002. So we're buying an upgraded piece of equipment from those guys. And Industrial Ally is a company as the engineer of record that we're using to check and balance IAC, just to make sure that everything is going in the right manner. But the equipment is known to us. We actually put a first generation roller press in like this in a plant in England before I came here. So we kind of understand the nuances of that type of piece of equipment adding on to a slag plant. But IAC overall have the responsibility. They're going to give me some keys to the roll press here in a few months, and they're responsible for giving that to us. And they've been very thoroughly vetted by our engineering excellence team up at Allentown CCC, and they were chosen over some very big names in the construction industry for cement plant building. So I'm pretty comfortable that we've got the right guys to come and do it for us.
Thank you.
What is the estimated timeline for the,
We're expecting the piling to be complete certainly by the first week in February, all the major piles. We're expecting equipment to be delivered probably around March, April. The actual main roll press itself is due for delivery in July, and our expectation is that we're producing probably middle of Q4 this year. So that'll be probably middle of November. We expect to turn it on. I'd like to see a couple of weeks of operation before the year end, just so that we can stabilize it and get it ready for 2023.
sort of a fast track?
It's a relative fast track, but it's a big project, but I think it's very well organized. We're just about 75% of the way through detailed engineering, which is pretty reasonable at this stage of a project. The schedule is about 85% complete, and that's what we're seeing. All we're really waiting for, from my perspective, for the locality here, is the tie-in date, which is sometime in October. That's all I've got for now. I've got a 30-day moving window to fit 6 days of changeover into there. So we'll shut down and we'll do a major outage for the existing plant, and then we'll tie into the new plant.
Do you have any other facilities besides Port Canaveral?
We have a facility up in Camden, New Jersey. That's a different kind of mill, but it's grinding slag. We have another very old conventional ball mill system in Middle Branch in Ohio. That was ours by acquisition, as was Camden in New Jersey. And we're in the process of building. When I left my previous job to come back home, we were in the process of constructing a slag grinding facility with a JV partner that we have in Houston. Okay.
John, how much time is left on their lease? Just out of curiosity.
On which release?
On the lease,
Oh, the lease.
land lease.
Off the top of my
19
head?
years on the current with a 15-year option.
There you go.
Well, I appreciate the way you guys take care of your facility. I mean, you can obviously see from the restaurants in the Cove that you guys are taking care of it, and we have another tenant that hasn't done that. So we appreciate that, and we appreciate your business.
Well, again, we're glad to be part of this organization and support the port. And we don't want to be on your radar for any wrong reason. So I'll take that
Always
back to you
best.
guys. We work hard to keep it presentable. At the end of the day, it's ours. And, we know that we're in the public eye. There's thousands of cruise visitors traversing through this port on a weekly basis. We're under scrutiny all the time. And I never miss an opportunity to share that with my guys, because they need to understand that it's okay thinking that the good old days of 2009, 2013, where we'd run the plant 2 days a week and we clean up for 5 days a week, those days are gone. And we have to keep the same standards of operation 7 days a week. And again, we need them to do the right thing even when no one's looking, and that's the key for us, I think.
Any other questions for Neil Hudson? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Reports, Captain Murray report. Captain, did you shut down the office today, since there's hardly any employees here?
I can tell you that most of them are watching this presentation right now from their desks. But we've had a few incidents with our Omicron that have kind of got people separated right now. So start off, Neil, thank you for coming. And one little bit of tidbit of information is the power line that we talk about all the time on the north side is what powers Neil's ball roller. So that's the primary use for that line. So we talked a little bit about getting it moved, and he can actually help support us on that. So that's great news. We're going to jump into our monthly report. I'm going to talk first about the cruise numbers through November. We had done 121 calls. We're not running through December because of the timing and closing out, but Mike will have a few comments about our December numbers. 458,000 multi-day passengers already through November. So it's coming back. It's coming back strongly. We had 6 ships in port on January 2nd. We have 2 more incidents this month where we'll have 6 ships in port at the same time. So I'll touch on those in a minute. Carnival Liberty is currently sailing out of Miami, relieving the Carnival Horizon, who went to dry dock. The Horizon comes back. I believe it's the 22nd into Miami, back into a rotation, and the Liberty will come up to us 3 weeks early and begin service on January 24th. As you recall, that ship is in our budget to start sometime in February. And that'll be the first 3 and 4 day service that Carnival will have here at Port Canaveral since the restart. Royal Caribbean also announced that the Wonder of the Seas, which has yet to make its way over to the United States, is the newest ship for Royal Caribbean. Hasn't actually been delivered yet, still doing sea trials and all. It's going to offer 7-day itineraries from Port Canaveral starting this November. This is the first time we'll have a brand new Oasis class ship at Port Canaveral, and we're really excited to have that ship here. Ship was originally designed to be deployed in China, and the way the world has evolved over the last 2 years, it's found a new home at Port Canaveral. So we're, like I say, very happy about that. Just touching base on what's going on in protocols. Safety protocols all remain in place. The mask mandate in our cruise terminals is a TSA requirement. So that's a federal requirement. Anyone going in and out of our terminals during cruise operations must be masked up, and to that order is in place until March 18th. The conditional sail order from the CDC remains in effect through January 15th, with this coming weekend. There's been a lot of speculation that the CDC would extend that. As of yesterday, Dr. Walensky was testifying in Senate hearing and said that that order will cease this week, and it will be completely voluntary after that. So that's good news. It clearly shows that the industry is policing itself very well, and the protocols are working, and the CDC is comfortable with that, and the relationship with the cruise lines, that they're no longer going to have this mandatory order in place. The voluntary compliance, the guests, 12, some of this is the Bahamian government. Every government's got their own controls now, and as you've read in the media, it's affecting some port calls when the ships are traveling around the Caribbean. You know, with Omicron out there and the transmissibility of it, it's a very, very dynamic situation right now. Some ports are not receiving vessels, so it's changing some of the itineraries. The good news is nothing is shutting down like it did in March of 2020. That all said, I've got 2 announcements to make. Since our briefings in the last 2 days, we've had a couple of cancellations ourselves. Royal Caribbean is going to be canceling the Independence of the Seas on 2 voyages, Friday, 3-day voyage on January 24th, and Monday, a 4-day, January 14th, this Friday, and Monday, January 24th. Both of those sailings were chartered sailings for, I hate to use the comparison, but remember the Holy ship that we had a few years ago and all the music, and well, they had 2 music ships scheduled, and these were the 2 ships, and they canceled the events, which cancels the sailings, because the whole ship is chartered to the event folks. So those 2 won't sail. And then last night, Norwegian announced a few ships that they're going to stand down for a couple of weeks. One of those is our Norwegian Escape, and she will stand down this weekend for 2 weeks and return to service on the 22nd of January. So not unexpected. Every cruise line is doing something different. Carnival will continue operations as normal. Same as far as I know with Disney and MSC. So we've been communicating with everyone, and these are the only vessels that will be affected at Port Canaveral at this time. So, any questions on cruise?
What's the average occupancy rate on Carnival now?
It's fluctuates between each cruise lines get their own protocols, and this is the beauty of where we are with the CDC and the cruise lines' relationship with them. Every cruise line has got their own threshold of what they think they can manage with their protocols, and you know, some have more children on board, and the children aren't as vaccinated, so they don't carry as many passengers. So every cruise line's got a different protocol. Through the holidays, we were very strong, and the average for all of the brands together through the holidays was about 70%. But now we're into our normal, our wave season from January, February, beginning of March, where bookings are normally down this time of year. Now we've got Omicron on top, so they've had some cancellations. It's hard to tell what's normal seasonal downtrend versus what is COVID related, but all of the lines are continuing to operate except the NCL standing down for 2 weeks. And they've done that with a number of ships. Like I say, everybody's got a different protocol on how they operate, and it's working. So,
But the overall effect of those cancellations financially, while it would have some effect, it would not have any drastic effect.
it's a
I think we budgeted at 50%.
no, we're at
so-
75% starting in January,
Yeah, okay.
and we're 50% through the first quarter. We were well over the 50% on average in the first quarter. And, you know, this is 2 sailings. We've had some other sailings that we picked up. We've had additional technical calls. So, you know, Mike's going to look at it, but it's not going to be a significant impact because you're really losing 2 7-day sailings and the two smaller ones. And I don't know what the passenger counts were scheduled for those ships, but it shouldn't be a significant bump. If I were to roll a number out, and Mike can correct me later after you write something down and say so maybe $500,000 total. So, in revenue.
Okay,
That
thank
good?
you.
Okay. Moving on to cargo. Cargo numbers continue to be strong. We have 61 ship calls. Cargo revenue is 2.7 through November. The break bulk is significantly up since last year, 351%. That's lumber's up 26%. Petroleum is back up again. People are driving. Airplanes are flying. It's been pretty good. We had the Saga Frontier discharging 19,000 units of lumber on December 26th. You know, we continue to have lumber all over the port, and it moves out as fast as it moves in. So it's a good commodity to have at the port right now. Communications, we were on Fox and Friends last week for a brief stint, and then we had Fox Business was here all day last Wednesday. They started broadcasting at first broadcast was right after 9 in the morning, and then they broadcasted on the hour through the day until the last broadcast was at 10 minutes to 6 that evening. So Ashley Webster, who's one of their anchors on Barney, came down, and he was here for the whole day broadcasting live out at Cruise Terminal 10. We also had all of our media friends from Orlando in and just did a Q&A with them because there's so much misinformation floating around in the media. It was of value just to say, no announcement, what are your questions? And they had a lot of them. So it was good to do that. And I understand they're standing by today when we finish this event as well. So everybody wants to know, and there's a lot of misinformation circulating, particularly about the cruise industry because it's so easy to focus on. And you say, well, there's a ship, how many cases? I mean, it's quantifiable. Can't quantify an airport, can't quantify a grocery store, but you can quantify a ship. So that's where it gets all the attention.
It's good that you and your staff were out in front of it.
Yeah, and I like to blame
the false
them for
information.
creating the stories, you know. But anyway, it's all good. We've got a great relationship with our local media, and that's helpful. Steve likes to put this up. There's something I'm supposed to mention that we're 9,000 shy of 100,000 likes on Facebook. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you know, our social media has been the best vehicle I think we've ever had in communicating about the port to the public, to the end users, just in general. We've got a lot of following out there from the community, the businesses, and it's certainly better than the old paper magazine that we used to mail out every month. So thanks to Steve and his team for that. Recreation, I mentioned briefly, we've got a new Jetty Park reservation system went into effect on Monday, 13th. Tomorrow, sorry. It's going live tomorrow. It's a user-friendly reservation system called Camp Life. It saves time by automating reservations, provide better reporting to us. It allows people to book their reservations themselves online, and there's even a provision in there, I believe, where if you have a specific website or a campsite that you like and it's available, you can select it and pay a reservation fee to hold it. So that's a much more user-friendly application than what we've been doing traditionally. Occupancy rates at the campground were close to 100% through Christmas and New Year's holidays. So we're back to normal, so to speak, at the Jetty Park campground. Public safety, we've been working with the Coast Guard, Space Wing, and our departments to coordinate the upcoming launch activity. There's a lot of activity this month in particular, and there's a launch this morning, I believe, at 10:30. Many of the launches this month with SpaceX in particular are polar launches, and they launch south, and they come right along the coastline. And we've been working with the Coast Guard, and just yesterday, late afternoon, Captain Vaughn issued a new safety bulletin on the secure zone. Generally, the polar launches knock out the shipping lanes coming up in and out of the port, so they do impact our vessel traffic. The new safety zone is moved outside of that, so our shipping traffic won't be affected in the future on the polar launches. So that's good news. That just came out yesterday, late afternoon. We're also finalizing plans for upcoming full-scale exercise in February. We do security exercises with all of our partners, the FBI, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and BCSO. On say there's an incident and we do a live exercise. Sometimes they're what we call tabletop, and they're done in a conference room. But when we do a full scale, that means we've got boots on the ground, people out, pretending that something's really happening, and everybody goes through the drill, and then we do a recap after, what went well, what didn't go well, what could we do to improve. So that's coming up in February. So we'll have more information on that, because when you do a full scale, you got people on radios and all, and we don't want to get the wrong message out to the wrong people and have them think something else is going here. So we'll have more information on that before it takes place. We also have a tabletop exercise coming up with Department of Homeland Security and Infrastructure Security Agency and IT, cybersecurity. We're also working with cruise lines on vaccine boosters for crew members. We've had, originally it was easy because the vaccines came from the state. We had the state and parish health, and everybody had easy access to them, and that's all changed. So now you got to go through some different gyrations to get the boosters, but we're working with a couple of the cruise lines to make sure that all of their crew members are boosted. We're also coordinating a January 31st visit for Massachusetts Maritime Emergency Management students. And we're going to have a port brief, emergency management discussion, and a LNG firefighting demonstration behind the Maritime Center. So that's exciting. And we've had some of the maritime academies have taken us up on our firefighting training classes in the school, and Mass Maritime hasn't yet. So it's kind of a sales opportunity for us as well to get them into our program. And with that, I thank you. And if there are any questions,
Any questions for Captain Murray? None. Thank you very much.
all right, we'll
Good report.
keep you all advised as things evolve with cruising, because it's very dynamic right now. And I just told you yesterday nothing had shut down, and this morning we have 4 ships affected. So we'll keep you up to speed on that. Thanks.
Okay, next item is presentation on selected financial information for November 2021. Mr. Poole.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
The financial numbers that we'll be presenting today are similar to last month when we have one of our monthly meetings that it's not at the 4th Wednesday of the month, and such as in January and December. Here it is the 2nd week of the month. We're going to present to you full November financials, which is the full income statement, revenues, expenses, and the balance sheet, because we've been able to close out the month. But we'll also be showing you, as John indicated, the revenue numbers for December. So not the expenses, not the balance sheet, but we're going to give you a look ahead how the December numbers are looking. So through November only, just for the month of November, $8.6 million in total revenues. That's $1.4 million above budget, and all our line items are either at or above budget. So if there's 2 takeaways for the month alone, that's it. 1.4 million above budget, and we're either at or above on all our line items. Here you'll see the how the 1.4 million is allocated, majority of it being cruise and cruise parking. However, you see recreation, Jetty Park, as John indicated, campsites out at 100%. That's performing very strong as well. Now, year to date, October and November together, 2 months into our fiscal year, $16 million. That's $2 million above budget. Here's the breakdown. You'll see the majority of it being cruise parking, but recreation continuing at that monthly pace. It's significantly at $161,000 above budget as well. Now, I always report this. Since the resumption of cruise, you're going to see a month-by-month increase in passengers, you're going to see a month-by-month increase in our monthly revenues as well that I'll be reporting on. You'll see every month that the passenger counts are increasing. So since the resumption of cruise, we've had almost 1 million passengers that have come through our terminals, and that's again through the end of December. And what happened in December? $9.5 million in revenues. We budgeted $7 million. That's $2.4 million above budget. If you went back and looked at October revenues, it was about $7.5 million. November revenues, $8.5 million. December revenues, $9.5 million. So you're seeing an increase that's going along with the passenger counts that are going up and our cargo numbers that are going up. We're seeing a $1 million increase month over month for the first 3 months of the year. Now, in December here, you see that 9.5 million, 2.4 million. This again, just for the month. 2 million of that is cruise, and cargo had a very strong month as well. 272,000 in recreation, almost 200,000 as well. So December was a very strong month. So year to date, we're at 25 million. We budgeted 21 million, $4.5 million ahead of budget. Again, in October, November, December, we budgeted cruise to come in at 50%. Last 9 months of the year, it's coming. We budgeted, forecasted at 75%. John kind of touched on both these items. Yes, we will calculate what the budgeted revenue loss will be from 4 canceled sailings, but as John mentioned, what will buffer that, in addition to that $4.5 million positive variance that we have from the first 3 months, the Carnival Liberty is coming in about 3 weeks earlier than we expected. So we had it coming in February, it's coming in January. So it could be that it might be a wash. So I'd have to go back and I don't know how many additional calls the Liberty.
I think it was 5 or 6.
Is that 5? Yeah. Is that okay? Is Liberty a 3-4, John?
4.
So yeah. So we actually might be to net 2 additional sailings. So might be the revenue impact. It might be positive.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, but just as we also alluded to, it's as good as this news is, it's just as likely there's going to be more cancellations.
It could be.
So, I mean, it's got to say it. I mean, but either way, we're in good shape. I mean, we've showed a good growth. We've got a lot more passengers, and it's a positive message.
And I think, yes, there may be more cancellations, but the good news is the cruise lines are working through it. There's not even a discussion about stopping like we did before. So, you know, we're going to get through this. This is a blip on the radar, and we'll get over it. So I think that's the positive message here.
Sounds good.
So going back now to November numbers only, year-to-date numbers through November. Cruise was 11.9 million. That alone was $2 million above budget. We had 60 calls, 5 of them being porta calls, 55 home porta calls. Those 60 calls were in the month of November. And what about cargo? 2.6 million is $16,000 above budget, result of 941,000 tons of cargo. That is 189,000 tons, or 25% above prior year. And if you look at this slide, unlike the previous month where I thought fuel was an anomaly and it was below, in October you'll see petroleum is picking back up. So that 189,000 tons that that were ahead of the prior year, you see it's fuel, it's slag, aggregates is a little bit down, it's lumber, and it's salt. So the 2 big drivers there, petroleum, lumber, and slag.
What is that last item? Super sacks?
Is that, that's ASI, is that fertilizer in the
It may be. I'm not sure. Super sacks are just big sacks. I'm not sure what the commodity is, but it may be fertilizer, or it could be some other commodity, bag commodity.
Super sacks
But
is
it
normally
reduces revenue. Whatever's in it.
I've just never seen that term.
They call them super sacks because they're big enough you need a forklift to lift them. You can't just pick them
But
up
they
and throw it
stack
over your shoulder.
of something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's like 3,000 pounds per bag. It's a
Wow.
enormous bag that has these big straps and then takes a specialized piece of equipment to pick
That's
it
the way I
up.
pack, yeah.
So, yeah, it's not like a 200-pound bag of salt or a 50-pound bag of salt. It's big. Leases at 1.5 million, leases, recreation, miscellaneous, so all our items are at or above budget. Jetty Park is above budget. We're below on miscellaneous here. Miscellaneous is below because has commercial vehicle fees, so we don't have as many fees coming in from Uber and Lyft, but that's being more than offset by our parking dollars, people coming in and parking in our garages. So I lump recreation, which is Jetty Park, and miscellaneous together. When you combine the two, actual is ahead of budget as well as leases. To sum it up, through November, 2 months, we're about 15% above budget. Going to expenses, we're about 14% below budget. That's 1.1 million in savings spread amongst the 14 departments. And you looked at 1.1 million, what are the savings? There's savings in service contracts, salaries, engineering, and in utilities. That represents that 14%. And how does that come down to the bottom line? Through the month of November, 2 months, year-to-date activity, revenues are 16 million. When you deduct expenses of 7 million, that produces an operating income, a positive surplus number of almost $9 million. When you deduct the interest on your debt of almost 2 million, you have a positive income before depreciation, call it an EBITDA number of almost $7 million. After accounting for depreciation and your non-op revenues of $6 million, you have a change in net position or an increase in your retained earnings on your balance sheet of a little over $5 million. That $6 million in non-op revenues, that's about $3 million per month that we received in October and November in that ARPA funding, that federal through state Operation Stabilization funding that we received. So 2 months into the year, it's $6 million. That's my report. Any questions?
For Mr. Poole.
Do you have any concerns on this aging summary? There seem to be a couple of anomalies, but I'm not.
SpaceX, without mentioning any names.
Commissioner Hadway, not at this point. We do have several of our, John assigns the port contacts who deal with that, Dave German on cruise or Samantha on cargo, on any of our tenants. And so we're actively engaging with them. At this time, there is no concern.
Okay. Then I will move to approve the financial information memo, the financial reports, including the statistical report, aging report, list of bills, list of disposals, attorney's fees, and commissioner expenses for which there appear to be none.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Capital project, Mr. Crow.
Thanks, Melanie. Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Pleasure to give you an update this morning on our capital projects. I'm going to start off with North Cargo Berth 3. I'm going to jump down to that second bullet point, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the A-frame piles that are currently being delivered to the site, and we're about ready to start pile driving. So this is a big step for the project. We're excited to see that commence. There's just a lot of piles, both steel and concrete, that need to be driven as a part of this project. If you visit the site, what you'll see mostly is demolition activities. And so I want to highlight in that upper right-hand photo, you'll see a picture of the very large concrete saw. Don't see the projectors on.
There we go.
All right, thanks, Troy. Appreciate that. So you'll see a very large concrete saw that our contractor, Rush Marine, has been using to saw apart, literally saw apart and lift out of place those existing sections of that concrete pier. They're also doing some asphalt pavement removal in front of the warehouse where they're going to be driving these A-frame piles. Substantial completion still on track for 2023, the spring, and final completion late April. I want to just highlight a drone video that my team flew. Patrick Hammond flew the drone video, and also John Van Matry from our communications department did a great job of editing this video. I think it really gives a great perspective on what is currently happening out there. So that's that existing concrete pier that we're in the process of demolishing. That is the overall limits of the project that we're going to be rebuilding, almost 900 linear feet of new berth. Those are, at the time of the video, 8 of the 178 A-frame piles. They're about 130 feet long. They're going to be driven along this corridor right here from one end of the project to the other, and they form the main anchor system or anchor wall for the new bulkhead that new bulkhead and cap will be tied into. That existing warehouse is going to remain in place, and it is very active. Ambassador or ASI uses it for wood pulp and newsprint. You saw some of those from the photos, some of the sections of concrete pier that have been removed. Much more has been removed since the date of this video. That little area is going to be filled in, and it's going to be part of usable berth, usable wharf moving forward. So we're excited to see that. That right there is the overall western limits of the project for North 3. We'll continue on through North 4 with the utility corridor for water, for sewer, for electric, and that really sets up a future project for North 4 to tie into. And very excited to see substantial progress being made on that North 3 project. Going to touch a little bit on Cruise Terminal 5 mooring improvements. All of our steel pipe piles have been driven. We're currently working on the formwork for what we call a dolphin platform, and you see that in the foreground of that second photo. That concrete pour is scheduled for January 17th. The concrete caps for the catwalk piles that you see behind it, those are all completed. We're just waiting on the delivery of the aluminum catwalks to be installed. And between now and April 1st, there's a lot of project electrical work and some IT work, low voltage and cameras that are going to be underway as well. Another quick drone video highlighting some of these elements. Again, the new mooring platform and catwalk supports. You'll see that's the platform dolphin. It's supported by 6 84-inch diameter steel pipe piles. And those piles are about 120 feet long, driven into the seafloor. Once completed, we'll have about 650 metric ton mooring bollards on that platform. That's the new Royal Caribbean standard, is that 150 ton. For comparison, we did that 120-foot pier extension for the expansion back in 2016, and you can see the lighter colored concrete. We'll fast forward over here to the very north end of the CT5 mooring improvements, and we've added 2 monopile dolphins. The steel pipes have been driven. We're just waiting on the concrete caps to be cast, and then 2 new 150 metric ton mooring bollards are going to be added to there as well. So again, I really want to give a shout out to my team and the communications department for producing these videos. I think it really helps everybody to understand the scope and the placement of all these various elements that go into our projects. Cruise Terminal 8, Phase 2. This is a Doug Wilson Enterprise project for just under $3 million. We are working on a couple of key components that were deferred from Phase 1. One of those we're highlighting in this upper right hand photo. That is shot inside of a new pierside restroom. So it's not a guest facing restroom. It's for dock workers and stevedoring workers. So that is panel systems been installed on the walls. We still have to put up the partitions and the sink and the other fixtures, but there'll be 2 brand new pierside restrooms for all the dock workers to use out there. That third bullet point down, interior finishes are ongoing on the new Concierge expansion. So we added about 1,400 square foot to an existing part of the structure for a total area of just over 2,700 square foot. That would be for their Concierge space. We are awaiting what's called cow wall, and I'll show you exactly what that is in the next photo. It was supposed to be here yesterday and today. The truck broke down in Georgia, so it's going to arrive tomorrow. It will be installed next week. The new glass windows, those have been delivered. They're in the subcontractor's warehouse. We're just waiting on a less windy day to install those windows. And then new low voltage wiring does continue in the CBP area. So that cow wall is a translucent panel, and it's been part of the terminal since its inception in 1998, and it is here in the clear story up above and adjacent to the new area. That's existing cow wall. It's a translucent fiber-based panel. And we're just waiting on the cow wall that's going to complete this area here. And that glazing, the new windows are going to be installed in this area. And it's going to give concierge guests a view of the vessel, some of the pierside activity as well. Here's the view from the other side. This is the new passenger boarding bridge from Adelte. The existing passenger boarding bridge used to connect in this area right here. We've closed that off. It's now part of that concierge experience. And you can see a difference in the roof line. This little triangle right here, that's the new space, the new expansion, and this was the existing roof line, and all of that now is dedicated for concierge. I wanted to take a little bit of time and just step you around the port, let you know the breadth of projects that we currently have underway. I get the opportunity to highlight some of the larger projects, but I want to let you know all of the other miscellaneous projects and design efforts for future planning that we have underway, and just to give you a better sense and feel for the scope of what we have underway. And I'm going to start, we're here in the Maritime Center. Just across George King Boulevard is Cruise Terminal number 1. We've been planning some parking system upgrades to the parking equipment. So we have hub parking equipment. We're looking at a different system owned by the same parent company, but it's called TIBA, and it's contactless, it's app-based, so you can pay for parking on your mobile device. A lot more user-friendly, and again, it is a contactless form of payment. So we will likely have some future commission action as we go to change out some of that equipment. Much of it's coming off of that 5-year warranty period and needs to be replaced anyways. We have a set of 2 gangways formerly manufactured by FMT, and their lifting frames are operated by hydraulic cylinders, which are highly susceptible to corrosion in the saltwater environment. So we're going through a system of replacing those hydraulic cylinders, and it's caused some downtime with those bridges, and we appreciate the patience of our operations team and the cruise line as we work through a lot of those hydraulic cylinder replacements. All of the other bridges that we have around the port are driven by metal screws, by large metal screws hooked up to electric motors. So they're just a lot less susceptible to corrosion, a lot more dependable system. Going around the port, we have talked about Cove stormwater repairs that's taking place over there in the Gators Dockside parking lot. We're removing some historical corrugated plastic pipe that's prone to leaking. We're going to be pulling that out of the ground. At Terminal 10, we've done some gutter replacement, some heavy-duty steel gutters around that roof line that were showing signs of age, needed to be replaced. We completed the fender chain replacement project there at Cruise Terminal number 10. We talked about the Terminal 8 Phase 2. Going to move on to Terminal 6. We actually upgraded both of those chillers feeding Terminal 6. If you recall, the commission gave us permission to order those chillers almost a year ago. It was February of last year, and just is a testament to the time it takes to manufacture and ship those chillers. They did arrive here in December, and we replaced both chiller systems last week. Terminal 5 mooring improvements, we talked about that. North Cargo berth 4 design, I have one of my agenda items pertains to finalizing that design and permitting, getting that project shovel ready. North Cargo berth 3, excited to see that work underway. Also, Jetty Park Camp Store, we continue to press forward with our recreation team and my team to right-size that facility. It'll be similar in look and feel to that existing bait and tackle shop that we have down near the Freddie Patrick Boat Ramp facility. South Cargo Pier 1 and 2, we've done topside inspections, we've done under pier inspections, and we've even done some dive inspections of those 3 piers, along with Cruise Terminal number 2. So we're planning this concrete rehab project with pile jackets, spall repair, new fenders, new bollards. And now that we've completed all those inspections, the designer, Atkins and Jacobs, is able to roll that into a new set of plans for design, for permitting, and ultimately bidding. And that is in our FY23 capital budget. ASI Building 1 roof repair. Hurd Construction's doing that project for us. We've ordered all those materials. We're waiting on roofing materials to be delivered in late February or early March. Then we'll need about 60 days roughly to complete that project. So that just gives you, again, a little bit of a feel for all that we have going on, large and small, around the port in various business lines from cruise to cargo and recreation.
Good report, Bill. Any questions?
Yeah, just one on the parking upgrade, parking system upgrade. Is that potentially getting to you could sign spaces, or you can get a space, a promised space ahead of time, or is that something that is
No,
something
not,
different?
not with this system. I don't know if that's an option, but that's not what we're planning for this.
Okay.
It is very useful as far as pay on exit versus pay on entry. There's a lot of flexibility. In certain instances, we're evaluating license plate readers that will help us capture parking revenue from those back-to-back cruisers. So if you imagine if it's a pay on entry system, they might pay for the first 3 or 4 day cruise, then they have a back-to-back on a 7-day. We would traditionally miss out on that 7-day cruise. This new system with that integrated license plate reader, and we're still evaluating exactly how that's going to work according to our business rules, would help us capture that data and that parking revenue as well. So we're really excited about that on multiple fronts. It's a very collaborative process. It involves finance department, business process, a lot of input from IT, and of course support from engineering, our consultants and contractors as well.
And our external partners are obviously.
Yes, external partners. We're working with Ivies on the implementation side, and of course representatives from TIBA. TIBA is the parking equipment manufacturer, and there's increased domestic availability of this equipment and service for this equipment, and so that is a highly attractive feature for us as we compare it to our historical experience with our existing equipment, where it's been a little bit more difficult to get equipment from overseas, and even some service expertise from overseas as well. Another point is we're trying to make this an out-of-the-box solution. So with our existing system that was set up for pay on exit, we've tried to convert those to pay on entry, and it's been a very custom process, very customized process. So when we have an issue, it takes a little bit longer because they have to dig back into the custom software and what we've written as far as our business rules. So we're really trying to work it and make it an out-of-the-box solution moving forward.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you.
Next item, public comment on consent agenda items, and I don't think there's any public content. So on the consent agenda, starting with Commissioner Lloyd, do you have any items you want to pull?
Yes, I do. Let me get my screen up here. Sorry. Item 3A, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Markey,
I have none.
Commissioner Hadaway,
I was gonna do 3A as well, so other than that, I'm good.
Commissioner Justice.
Yeah, 3A, but also 2B, please.
Okay. Then the chair would entertain a motion on consent agenda items 1A, 2A, 2C, 4A.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item 2B, Commissioner Justice.
Yes, Bill, could we do our annual walkthrough of your process so we publicly can show the transparency and the process we use to renew these things?
Absolutely. And pardon me, in my linear thinking brain, I'm going to start from the beginning, whereas we advertise these continuing contracts. Some are for consulting services, some are for brick and mortar construction services, and we'll do CM at risk landside, CM at risk waterside. We, over the past 5 years or so that I've been here, 5-6 years, we've been transitioning a lot of those to a 3-year base contract where there's no increase allowed in their fee structure, and we allow for 2 outlying year renewals. So that's a total contract of 5 years. And not every contract lines up in the year that it expires. So my team does an excellent job of tracking these continuing contracts. Come the end of the year, though, we have a series of renewals that we need to make. And this year we put all of our vendors that needed to be renewed on notice. Hey, we're going to renew your contract at the January board meeting. Some of those consultants and contractors came back and said, hey, per our contract, we're allowed a rate increase. So here is our requested rate increase. Most of the all of the recent contracts reference the CPI, Consumer Price Index, and that is kind of a rolling 12-month. We use the rolling 12-month calculation based on when those contracts renewal. So we had a series of 3 vendors come back to us. We had a 4th vendor, but the 4th vendor was was still working through their calculations. So those three vendors were Olson and Associates wanted a 3% increase. Ivy's wanted a 3.5% increase. Both were well under CPI. Jacobs requested a 5.1% increase, which when they made that request back in September, I think it was October, that was then the 12-month rolling calculation of that particular CPI. Since then, due to inflation, the CPI rate has gone up. So it would have been, if we would have done the calculation today, would have been a higher rate of increase of like 6.8%. So we support all of these three requests for cost increase. Our continuing contracts are incredibly valuable to us, both on the design side and on the construction side. We use them regularly for advisory roles and also for brick and mortar projects as well. And so your consideration is greatly appreciated. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thanks, very good. With that, I'll move to have consent agenda item 2 Bravo for approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve item 2B. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. Item 3A, which was pulled by 3 people. So, Mike, Commissioner Lloyd, you were first, so if you want to address that.
I think we'll just let Mr. Poole give us an overview of what it is, and then we can all comment.
Okay.
Absolutely. This item is asking or requesting the board, the commission, to designate our CEO with the ability for fiscal year 22 only to make any department to department budgetary transfers, as long as the total budget or total operating budget, which for this year is I think 48.9 million, as long as that number does not increase. And what I put in your packet is a copy of the Florida statutes that allows this. So the statute that governs special districts is similar to the statutes that govern municipalities and governs counties, and allows the governing body to designate an individual. It doesn't have to be John. It could be John. It could be myself as the CFO. It could be Pat Poston, with the ability to make these transfers. So why we're doing this is to give John the flexibility if he needs to be able to cover any type of budgetary shortfalls, because how the statute is written right now, and I don't see it being changed by saying right now, but it says that even if you come in under budget, similar to last year we had a $37 million budget. We had $1.1 million in savings. It came in like a $35.9 million. We had $1.1 million in savings. However, of our 14 departments, we had some departments that came in above budget, some as little as $2,000, like public safety. The statute says that because the commission approves that budget at the department level, those 14 departments, you have to approve any transfers, and we have to cover those shortfalls. And we have 60 days after the end of the year to cover the shortfall. So we have from October 1 to November 30 to cover the shortfall. We came to the board in October to do that. Now the statute does say, as long as that budget doesn't increase, you don't have to. We don't have to come. You can designate John with the ability to do those transfers, and we don't have to come back for your approval. So that's what we're asking for this year only, fiscal year 22. And I would ask for this on an annual basis. Next year, when we ask for it in FY23, I will make this a part of the authorizing resolution that the board approves in September. We'll just add a couple of sentences here that will allow for this. So I think I've had discussions with each commissioner individually. I know with Commissioner Hadaway, she was concerned about the statute mentions procedures. Well, what are your procedures? And I think we're gonna, we've outlined those. One of the procedures is gonna say that as long as the budget isn't increased, John has the ability to do department-to-department transfers. However, any transfers that are made will be reported back to the commission at its next regularly scheduled meeting. And one of the things that we have to do is, Melanie, we need to make sure that this is reflected in the minutes. So I think Commissioner Hadaway is going to reflect that, make that as part of the motion, and then I need to make sure that's part of the minutes. So Commissioner Hadaway, unless there's any other questions.
Micah, did you have any other comments or questions?
I have a couple comments just to fellow commissioners. I mean, I understand logistically why this needs to be done this year. In past years, we've been pretty spot on with our projections on budget. So, you know, I think as we ramp back up from the COVID crisis, it's been tough for staff to kind of project out what the actual budget needs to be, the staffing needs to be, and where those line items need to fall in. So I totally agree with this year, giving John the ability to make those changes with Commissioner Hadaway's recommendation. But I think we as commissioners need to be careful that we're not getting into a position where it's okay to transfer Jetty Park dollars to cruise dollars and things aren't moving around without our oversight. So as an abundance of caution, we have a very good CEO right now. I think you guys know that he has my confidence. Down the road, that may not be the case. And I think some of us have been here when that wasn't the case. So I think to make it, we need to make sure we're having discussions about this and we think about the procedures on this so that we don't have something down the road that we have to deal with.
And it would be limited only to this year. In no way would increase the total budget in any way.
Yes, this year only. But so the motion that we're asking for right now is fiscal year 2022 only.
And I'll let you get to your motion in just a second, but it would be reported to us monthly where any adjustments were made, but it would eliminate any requirement, any kind of budget hearing to allow those adjustments to be made.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And I think having maybe this discussion again when we get next year's budget may be very healthy. So that's my 2 cents.
Agreed, and my comments, I think, go along with that. I see two issues in the statute. One, the statute references a chief budget officer, but doesn't define who that is. There are other statutes that define the governor as the chief budget officer of the state, and the clerk of courts is the chief budget officer of the county. But I went back and looked in our charter. We don't have that. It's not in the statutes. So in my opinion, it makes sense that the CEO would be for the port, just by the nature of the position this year and any year were there to be an issue. So I'm happy to honor the request, but I think we might need to have staff look at for a resolution for future meetings or even future charter review committees, just to designate who that chief budget officer is in perpetuity. That said, for today's purposes, for fiscal year 22, I will move that we designate.
Can we see if Commissioner Justice has any comments?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm good.
Oh, okay.
I would move that we designate the CEO as the designated budget officer and allow him to amend the budget with department to department transfers, providing the total budget does not increase, provided that he comes to the board at the next regularly scheduled meeting and reports such transfers.
And just clarification, that designation of the chief budgeting officer would only apply for this year.
I'm following staff's
Good.
ask for fiscal year 22 and asking that we look at it in the future if that's something we ought to just have as a.
Okay.
I'll
Do we have
I'll second that.
Second, all right. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? It passes. Thank you very much. that concludes the consent agenda. We have one comment card for the public comment, and that's Matt Phillips, who is discussing raising parking fees.
To all commissioners and CEO of Port Canaveral, with your permission, we ask that you please consider raising the price of parking for the following reasons. In the December meeting, the port had used comparisons from other ports to rightfully justify the CEO's raise, as he was loyally working for the port and had not had a raise in 3 years. We would like to use the same analogy for Port Canaveral to raise their parking prices to cruisers. The current and considerably low rate of $17 per day has not seen an increase since 2016. We ask that you consider the ports of Miami and Galveston at the proportionate rate of $20 per day for an on-site parking, remembering that Port Canaveral spent 18 months in shutdown during the pandemic with no parking revenue to account for during that time. The port would greatly benefit to raise the parking rate to match that of Miami and Galveston. Port Canaveral deserves the increase and the additional revenue. Per the CEO in December meeting, the available parking is now filled to 100% occupancy at many terminals. However, many on-site parking areas are being occupied by COVID testing sites and extra vehicles for personnel. This limits the number of parking spaces for the cruisers that are flocking to the port. As airlines continue to struggle with staffing and canceled flights, more and more passengers are deciding to drive directly to the port. Cruisers are taking advantage of an exceptionally low rate of $17 a day and would just as willing to pay a minimum of $20 a day to ensure that they have the safest and most convenient place to park while they cruise. It is noted that Port Canaveral has approximately 7,000 parking spaces on site. With a $3 increase per day, the port could see an additional revenue of $7 million annually. Commissioners and CEO, thank you for your consideration in this matter. We know that you have always made the Port Canaveral's benefit and sustainability your priority and will continue to do so moving forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Phillips. I might say that it's unusual that anybody would come here and ever ask us to increase something. They always want things decreased. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to call on Mr. Beislein to give us a report on the status of the required redistricting, of Commissioners Port District.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Article 1, Section 3 of the Port Charter requires every 10 years, starting this year, 2022, the Commission is required to examine the registered voters, number of registered voters in each of the Commissioner districts and make adjustments if required based on what's the criteria in the Charter. Per the Charter, no Commissioner district shall have more than 22% or less than 18% of the total number of duly registered electors in a Canaveral Port District, according to a certified statement from the Supervisor of Elections. I received that statement yesterday. I had it on the website too, but it was updated as of yesterday with effective date of January the 3rd, which is the date that we will use. And I've run the numbers for each district. And fortunately, we're in compliance. I'll go ahead and round these to the nearest whole number. District 1 is 18% of the registered voters in the whole district. District 2 is 21%. District 3 is 21%. District 4 is 19%. And District 5 is 19%. All of them within the 22-18 range. So we are not required, you're not required to do anything. I've done this would be the third time. I've done this twice before, and it is a bear because of the shape of the county and the shape of the districts. And in this case especially, since District 1 has the fewest number of registered voters, still within the requirement, if we move, as you move the voters back and forth, because of the way we are right now, you're going to have a snowball. You're going to basically redoing every district to get within those percentages. Because if you move them too much, you're going to increase. You can't increase District 2 or District 3 by hardly anybody, because they're already close to being at the max. And District 1's way up here, District 5's way out here. So I think it's fortunate that this is where we are. And what I'm going to propose is that next month I bring back a resolution, and I've done these before, confirming that you guys have, it'll lay all out. I'll have a memorandum for you. And my recommendation is going to be that you leave the districts, the precincts and the districts as they are. 10 years from now, let somebody else do that. If that's what that's my recommendation.
But you'll make them present that resolution next.
I'll send a memo out before, so you'll have it in your hands. You can read it before the meeting.
Okay. Any questions to Mr. Beisling?
You're saying push it back to Commissioner Markey's last term?
Right.
I guess I have a question. I understand what the charter says, but I think we're still subject to the same state and federal laws as far as what our districts can be. And have we looked at that? I feel like, there's a lot of talk of that this year. There are a lot of threats of litigation, and I know much more of that's directed at much higher offices, and, the port's not a huge concern. But I do worry that we're cutting political boundaries in half. If you look at the maps, it's kind of all over the place. People have asked me to explain it before, and I'm at a loss. Also, the mandate to honor the votes of minorities and lesser represented communities. So are we meeting those requirements of the law, and have we looked at that?
Yes, I think we are. First of all, you run at large. All of you run at large. Okay. So that's not an issue there. Not a single member district. So everybody in the Port District votes for you no matter where they live. Secondly, in order to do this, you can't, supervisors elections I've worked with them before. Splitting precincts doesn't work, because that's a mammoth undertaking for the supervisors of elections to do. And based on, as you said, our shape of our Port District and the way that they are right now, it'd be very hard to do this without you could split a precinct, but didn't be held to pay to do that.
Right.
But I would have to move these all around in order to come up with something that balances it and still have contiguous lines and those kinds of things that you want to do. But I think the fact that we're registered voters, number one, not population, and number two, that you run at large, I think that we don't have an issue there.
Right.
Okay.
And it is confusing because many of the voters are not knowledgeable of the fact that we run district-wide. Because all the time it's, oh, you live in Titusville, oh, I live in Rockridge, I can't vote for you. Because, and I think the confusion to a great extent is because the county commission districts are single-member district, so only people in that district can vote for their county commissioner. But we have to face what, 190,000 voters?
Roughly.
Yeah,
it's about 190,000 voters.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
another thing, most municipalities, all of them that I know of, are single-member districts too. So, but we're not.
So do we need a motion for this resolution?
No, because we have to have this done by March 15th, and I can do it in February. We're done with it. Send it over to the supervisor of elections and to the county commission clerk, and then we're good for 10 more years.
Thank you, Mr. Beisling. Okay. Commissioner comments or commissioner reports, Commissioner Lloyd.
I have none, sir.
Commissioner Markey.
I have none.
Commissioner Hadaway.
My ambassador, Jessica Maxwell, was unable to be here today. She has an oncology appointment, and I would appreciate everyone keeping her in your prayers. And also, I am registering to attend Brevard Day in Tallahassee later this month and would encourage other commissioners or members of the community. It's with all of our joint chambers, excuse me, representing Brevard. I think Representative Soroy has put together some events for everyone. I think staff is going, and going to have a table on behalf of the port, but I think the more voices, the better.
Good, thank you for doing that. Commissioner Justice.
Yeah, just a few things to report back. Had the opportunity to join the welcoming plaque ceremony on the MSC ship. That's a beautiful ship. Had a chance to judge the Cocoa Boat Parade this year. And specifically, the best boat in the parade was the fireboat from the port. So they won an award. So it's good. We welcomed the new 2-star admiral down in Miami, who's running the entire 7th Coast Guard District, which is all of Florida and all the Caribbean. He was up here, and we had briefings. It turns out that the man, in 1989, when I was a number 2 guy on a ship, this guy reported as an ensign. He was one of my ensigns long time ago. So it's good to see him with this job and at that rank. I rep the port up at the Wreaths Across America, up at the cemetery up north, and got a couple of port speeches next week, and that's all I've got. Thank you.
And I have none. Since we've completed the agenda, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Our next scheduled meeting is Wednesday, February the 16th. Meeting adjourned. Have a good day.